Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user GatorTater5000. My best friend wants me to break up with my boyfriend and I don't know why. My boyfriend, we'll call him Blake, 25 male and I 25 female, have been together for 3 years. Before we dated, we used to be co-workers at a retail store when we were both 17. The first thing I noticed about Blake when we met was that he never smiled or showed any emotion. He always had a serious, stoned look on his face. He hardly, if ever, showed any emotional sentiments. I don't know how to describe it accurately, but just imagine Eminem or Shadow from Sonic and how they both always have a serious look on their faces. That's how Blake is. However, Blake has always been respectful to those around him and never once raised his voice throughout his whole career. Our co-workers always thought Blake was weird and warned me to avoid him. However, despite all that, Blake and I ended up getting along great and became good friends. I never really minded that he never showed any emotions and still thought he was a good person. He even put up with my loud, extroverted self. Lol. Over the years, Blake and I became close, and I would occasionally see him smile or laugh, which I would lightly tease him about when it did happen. On my 22nd birthday, which is on Valentine's, Blake had asked me to come over to his house and said it was serious. And when I got there, it was full of decorations and flowers, and Blake was dressed nicely. He gave a long speech about how much our friendship meant to him and that he was grateful he had met me and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. I swear it felt like I was in a 70s rom-com movie. It was the first time I had seen Blake so vulnerable. He still had his cute, serious stone face on him, but I could tell he was extremely nervous. I, of course, said yes, and we had been a happy couple since then. Now on to the issue. My best friend, let's call her Sarah, 26 female, and I have been friends since we were in 5th grade. Sarah and I were each other's partners in crime. She and I were really close before I met Blake. She had never met Blake before, as at the time he and I were just barely talking, and by the time we graduated high school, she had moved away to stay with her dad in another city, so she never got the chance to meet him. I, of course, talked about him and showed pictures of him and me together when we became closer and started dating. However, she once stated how she found it weird that he never was really smiling or seemed happy when he was with me and that I shouldn't be dating someone who doesn't want to be happy around me. I brushed it off and just assured her that's how he is and that he is actually a sweet guy. Anyway, she had recently come back to our city and wanted the 3 of us to get together. We decided to meet at a restaurant her and I used to hang out at. When we got there, Sarah and I ran at each other and squealed like little girls while Blake just stood and watched us. When Sarah looked at Blake, I noticed her expression immediately changed and she awkwardly smiled and shook his hand and only said hi to him. Blake just nonchalantly said it was good to meet her. She then went back to talking to me, completely ignoring Blake. When we got our menus, Blake couldn't find a meal he would enjoy and just said he would be fine with a small appetizer. Sarah unexpectedly said, "Why? Is nothing here good enough for you? Why would you agree to come here if you weren't going to get anything then?" She tried to say it like it was a joke, but any person can tell it was obviously not. I then defended Blake, claiming he could have whatever he liked and it wasn't a big deal. Sarah then dropped it at that. Throughout our dinner, Sarah was ignoring Blake and was only trying to talk to me. Blake just stayed silent and watched us, not really caring about it, as he normally is not a big talker when meeting people. When she did include him, she would seemingly only ask him questions that would only need a one-word answer. And when he did answer, she would just give him side eyes or just say, "Okay then." I could already tell Sarah did not like Blake, but I couldn't understand why. She wasn't directly being rude to him, but I could tell when she was making snide remarks about how he was emotionless and whatnot. At one point, she excused herself to the bathroom, and when she left, I asked Blake if he was okay, and he assured me he was okay and just wanted me to catch up with my friend. I apologized for how she was acting, and he claimed he didn't care about it and was just happy I was with my friend. I was relieved he wasn't hurt by what was happening, but still felt bad for him. After dinner, the three of us went for a walk to see the buildings and stores, and Sarah seemed to be more cheerful. We then came across a person walking a small puppy. I love dogs so effing much. And Sarah and I cooed and were giggling at how cute the puppy was. Blake was just standing, watching us fawn over the puppy. Once the dog owner left, Sarah turned to Blake and she immediately became angry and asked, "How the F could you not even smile for a puppy? Are you seriously that soulless?" I was immediately shocked about her sudden change of tone and was about to say something, but Blake just shrugged and walked away, continuing our walk. I asked her what the hell her problem was and she immediately apologized and said she didn't mean to yell. Our walk then became awkward. I wanted to just go home, but I also felt bad for Sarah as she still had something else planned for after our walk that she had paid for the three of us to do. So I thought to just suck it up until it was over. I then had to use the bathroom and we found a nearby store. I went in and Blake and Sarah waited for me outside. When I came back, I found Sarah hysterically yelling at Blake. I immediately ran over to them and asked what the hell was going on. Sarah was in hysterics, but she kept yelling, "It's not going to happen! I will never let this happen!" I asked her what she was talking about, but all she said was Blake was a sociopath and demanded I break up with him. I looked at Blake, who was just as shocked as I was. I kept trying to ask the both of them what had happened, but neither would answer me, which scared me. People started staring and I desperately tried to calm Sarah down to de-escalate what was happening. Eventually, I told Blake to walk back to the car so we could go home and I would call an Uber for Sarah. When we were alone, I was trying to get Sarah to tell me what had happened, but she just stayed silent. Blake came back to pick me up and Sarah was just deathly staring at him and he kept his head low. I didn't know what was happening and just started assuming they had an argument. Thankfully, Sarah's Uber came and took her back to her hotel. Our car ride home was awkwardly silent, but as soon as we got home, I demanded to know what happened between him and Sarah. Blake just stayed silent, and at that point, I was irritated with the both of them for not answering my question. Blake said he couldn't say what happened, but that he was so sorry for what happened. That made me even more confused, and I asked him to please just say what had happened. He only said he swore he didn't do anything bad, but that he simply just couldn't say what happened. I then told him I was going to sleep in the guest bedroom as I just couldn't handle everything that was happening, especially since I still had no answer as to what happened between the two of them. He said he understood and told me he loved me and went to our room. This all happened not even a few hours ago. I am currently lying in the guest room confused and scared as ever. I know Sarah and Blake didn't really get along, but I don't know what caused such a huge fight that neither can tell me about. An hour ago, I got a text from Sarah saying, "I'm really sorry about what happened tonight, but please listen to me. You need to break up with Blake. He is a literal sociopath who is only using you. He doesn't deserve you. I'm telling you this because I love you and want to protect you. Please break up with him." I haven't responded to her text as I know if I try asking again what happened between them, she won't give me an answer. Reddit, I don't know what to do. I don't know if Sarah had said something to Blake or if Blake had said something to Sarah that caused all of this, but I'm scared that neither of them will tell me. Does Sarah simply just does not like Blake because he doesn't like to show his emotions? Any advice on how I can get the truth or at least some answers would be helpful. Well, Obi, I have to say, by the way that you describe Blake, I don't get a sociopath kind of vibe. Maybe an introverted, heavily introverted vibe, but not a sociopath. And he also doesn't seem like a toxic boyfriend because a toxic one would actually not like you meeting Sarah. He was happy you were with your friend and catching up. Also, at no point has he badmouthed her like she has him. Now, because of how Sarah has reacted, I wouldn't talk to her anymore until Blake tells you what happened, and then see if Sarah's story does hold water. I think you need to sit down with your boyfriend and tell him that this is really affecting you. If he sounds as caring as you make him sound, he's gonna let go of whatever it is and just tell you what's going on. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Moonfire says, maybe he said something to her about proposing to you, which is why he doesn't want to tell you and she was screaming that she wasn't going to let that happen. I don't know, but they both need to grow up and tell you what happened. I Need Water says, from Sarah's previous reactions, it seems to me Blake didn't do anything wrong. She probably asked his intentions and he may have said marriage. I doubt it was anything bad he did if she lashed out because he didn't coo over a puppy. Lizzie the cat says, maybe Blake is just autistic and Sarah feels triggered by that. Is it possible she's traumatized and projects her fears onto Blake? She needs to explain to you where this is coming from. And AlertBid1531 says, if something really bad happened on Sarah's behalf, why isn't she telling you so you will break up with him? It seems so strange she's so against and has a vendetta against him. Only things to come to my mind would be something like he dating you to be with her, he's some stalker, they dated before, something happened outside, maybe a kiss and he pushed her away, etc. Or he's going to propose and she flipped, he asked advice on a ring and she's not happy, the can't let this happen. Alright, so most of the majority saw something I definitely didn't, that maybe he wants to propose and that flipped her out. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hey guys, I'm back with a new update. Before I begin, I just want to thank those who took the time to read and give advice on my post. Now, with the update, the night I made the post, I had some time to sit and think about everything that happened. I now know I could have handled the situation better and I shouldn't have let Sarah continue her horrible behavior towards Blake. The fact that both of them were not telling me what was going on irritated me, and I let my anxiety get the better of me. I wanted to hear Blake out first, so I decided not to read Sarah's messages. I had turned off my phone and spent the day on my computer watching Reddit stories and learning how to use it better and going for a run to get my mind off everything. Once Blake came home, I asked if we could talk, to which he agreed. Taking the advice of a kind Redditor, I sat him down and started by apologizing for walking away from him the night before and for not defending him more during the hangout. I assured him I loved and trust him deeply and that I will believe what he says to me. Eventually Blake told me what happened. Some of you guessed it right, Blake was planning on proposing to me. The way he described it was that when I left, he confided in Sarah that he was planning to propose to me and asked if she could help choose a ring. Blake then said Sarah asked if he was being serious, and when he said he was being serious, she started screaming and lashing out at him. She screamed at him that this engagement will never happen, you don't deserve her. And that's when I came outside. To say I was beyond shocked would be understandable. I then hugged him and once again apologized and asked if that was the reason he didn't want to tell me. Blake said yes, and it's because he didn't want to ruin the surprise. He then apologized for not just telling me, saying it wasn't worth keeping it as a surprise if it was causing us problems. I told him it wasn't causing us any problems and that I love him even more now. We both then hugged it out and made up. Blake then asked what Sarah had said about the situation. I admitted to him that I didn't read anything she had sent and just turned off my phone as I was scared of what she had said. After a while, I finally turned on my phone, and I honestly wished I didn't. When Sarah said she wasn't going to let this engagement happen, she really did mean it. I didn't know she could do this to me, but now she's got our friends, my sister and my aunt involved, and even involved my estranged dad, which was a real low blow. For context, my dad and I are no longer on speaking terms due to an incident with my former stepmom. They're no longer together. After finally reading my family and friends' messages, it sums up that Sarah had told them that I'm with a sociopath and that I'm refusing to leave him, even when she said she'd tried to help. So now, the people who once knew the sweet, loving Blake that I know think he is now a crazy person and are begging me to leave him. I was, and still am, beyond furious. I had spent the whole night trying to clear the air with everyone, except my dad. Unfortunately, my aunt and some of my friends are still agreeing with Sarah, which is breaking my heart. There were so many texts from Sarah, but it ranged from her begging me to answer her to her being mad that I was taking Blake's side and not hers. Then she tried apologizing for involving my dad, but saying, "It was for your own good." I had only sent her one text. "I don't understand how you expect me to take your side when you never told me why you said what you said. Blake had already told me about what happened and I can't even imagine what your side is. I can't believe you effing lied to our friends and my family, and for you to involve my dad, how the F do you even have his number? Above all, you disrespected my relationship and my boyfriend. F you." I have since blocked her. She never told me why she wouldn't tell me what happened, so I still don't know what her motive was on that part, other than to try to break us up. Anyway, Blake and I are doing okay. He has been very understanding and patient through all of this, and I couldn't be more grateful for him. I know this might not be the end of this nightmare. I need to now find a way to convince my friends and my aunt that Blake is a good person, or maybe I can somehow get Sarah to admit she was lying. Once again, thank you all for your advice, and to the one Redditor who said my story was fake and that I shouldn't be with someone like Blake, I just want you to understand that these types of cartoonish situations can unfortunately happen to us. And also, Blake is one of the best things that has ever been brought into my crazy life, and I couldn't imagine my life without him, so screw you. Anyways, take care. Well, OP, it's not an entirely positive update, but you at least now know what happened, and you know that Blake wants to be with you forever. Hopefully you're able to find a way to get your friends, and especially your aunt, back on your side. In the meantime, here's wishing you and Blake the best in the future. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Stendhal Syndrome. Now, you can call me every single time. For reference, this took place back in the late 90s. I'd imagine school systems work much different at the high school level now, and my kids aren't that old yet. Okay, so it was my senior year of high school, and I had just had enough credits in my junior year to graduate. I had taken martial arts and taught it too, so I got an extra gym credit early. I changed my mind because I wanted to graduate with my friends, so I just loaded up my schedule that year with whatever I wanted or I thought would look good to colleges. A few AP courses like US Gov, Physics, Anatomy and Physiology, and some random stuff. The APs were a lot of work, and I had good test scores from last year already, and I wasn't looking to get lower scores on classes I didn't care about, so I dropped Physics and Gov and a random Jewelry 2 class. So I had 3 open periods a day surrounding lunch. It was magical, and I still had 1 AP class, so I thought I wasn't messing around too much. Both my parents worked, so we didn't know anything was amiss. Till we realized we had a broken answering machine. Again, it was the 90s. Apparently, my school was calling 3 times a day every day to tell us I wasn't showing up to some study hall class I had been assigned to after I dropped the few classes. This hadn't happened other years, as it would just be a free period. The funny part was the woman calling us was kind of a bitch about it. After the first few days, the messages started to get nasty, yet no one said a word to me in the school or was anything sent home. This is also around the time my mom was starting her retirement from being a hairstylist, so she'd do like a week on and a week off, and now she was getting the calls. So she tells the woman she's okay with it. His grades are good, technically he could have graduated already. College applications are already out, so no biggie. Oh, that was apparently the wrong thing to say to this lady, cause she read my mom the riot act. She went on about how irresponsible we all were and how she was personally going to tank my applications. How could I be so brazen, etc, 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 etc. Crazy level of overreaction. Plus, she wouldn't stop calling for every single class despite my parents' approval. Repeated calls to the school, and eventually they showed up face to face. It was by law. They had to report unapproved truancy. So my mom sat down on it. They wouldn't accept their word over the phone or even face to face that I was allowed to leave, as I had previous years with 0 issues. They wanted something in writing. I don't think any of it was legal or necessary because the lady was telling my parents they had to put all kinds of stuff like they knew they were being detrimental to my learning, were essentially bad parents, etc, etc, etc. Crazy stuff. So my mom gets an idea. She says 100% they aren't writing anything like that. She looks it up, and it is a law that if a student has an unexcused absence, they have to notify the parents. So she started playing dumb, making this lady call her up every single period I missed. Then she would hem and haw about, do I allow him to miss this period or is it a problem? Let me think. Then she'd make sure it's okay, this one time, but to call me if he misses anything else because I'm not sure how I'd feel if he missed more. knowing full well I was missing 3 periods a day every day till I graduated. They finally stopped calling like a month before I graduated. It was a solid 5 months of my mom messing with this woman named Sarah. Willow P, I guess the law let your mom just have a lot of fun at Sarah's expense. Thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.